Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the StreamYard Spotlight Show.
Hello, everyone.
I'm your co-host, Dana Bentz.
And I'm your co-host, Kelsey Bentz. It's so nice to be back. It's been a while.
It really has been. How long? I was just thinking, how long has it been?
I feel like it's been over a month, but maybe we did. I can't even remember.
I can't even remember.
It may have been 2 months.
I can't even remember. We do this show normally monthly, but I'm not sure if we had a guest last month. Hey, Lonnie, thanks for tuning in. Yes, please let us know where you're tuning in from. We love seeing how global our audience is, and we love seeing our regulars. You know who you are.
Yes.
Real-time catfishing. Howdy. Hello. Thanks for tuning in. Kelsey and I started this show, I think over 2 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
We started it just in the StreamYard Facebook community group to showcase your channels. So we had a new guest on who uses StreamYard in unique and interesting ways, and we got to feature them. So showcase all about their show, what they use StreamYard for, and really why they use StreamYard to create content. So that's what our episode is about today. But if you have any questions for our guests today, please drop them in the chat. But without further ado, I think we can bring him on. What do you say?
Let's do it. Our guest tonight is Ely Sussman. Let's welcome Ely to the stage. Hey.
Hey.
Hello, Ely. Kelsey, Dana. I am really surprised and also delighted that you thought I was worthy of being featured on the spotlight here. So I loved using StreamYard, and I love talking about it in various different ways that it's really helped me in a lot of different directions. So thank you guys for the time.
Thanks for taking the time to join us. We're so excited to talk to you about your use case with StreamYard, because it sounds like you use it in a lot of different ways. And I love hearing when people have multiple use cases for StreamYard. Yeah. So before we get into all of that, tell us a little bit who you are and what you use StreamYard for, and also how you found StreamYard.
Now,
that was like 3 in 1.
Yeah. I'll start with who I am. So I'm the managing editor of a site called Fish Stripes. We cover the Miami Marlins baseball team. So it's a very niche audience. If people in the chat, you could leave like a baseball emoji if you actually are baseball fans. Those are probably the people that might actually be interested in the specific content that we do. But I've been running the site since early 2018. And as a conventional blog is how it started out. But pretty early on, we branched out into lots of other types of multimedia. So it was podcasting in 2019, and it was an expansion of our social media strategy later that year. It was really early in the 2021 season that I got curious about live streaming, just as a way because my staff was expanding. With podcasts, you could do it with 2 people or 3 people. But when you go beyond that, it gets a little difficult to have a conversation.
Right.
And I felt that obviously StreamYard, the capacity is up to 10 streamers at the same time.
Yeah.
And there have been times over this past year where we've actually been pushing that limit a lot because of the contributors on my staff, as well as guests and our audience members that want to come on and talk with us about baseball and about this baseball team. So we started it in early 2021, right around opening day of that baseball season. And we've been using it sometimes twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a week to do live streams, as well as some non-live stuff as well. It has now become mainly the way that we record our podcasts between co-hosts to bring in special guests. It's also the platform that I use as staff meetings, because I'm somebody that we don't have an office. I'm actually about 1,000 miles away from most of my contributors. Most of them are around Miami. I'm in New York, and we use it offline as a way to see each other and to exchange ideas and to use. I love using the screen sharing in StreamYard to really get things across, both presentation purposes as well as just making things clear, showing things to have a laugh and all that stuff. I feel like I've found a lot of different varieties of ways to make this improve our workflow and our camaraderie and all that.
That is amazing. I love to hear when people are using StreamYard in multiple ways, because I think sometimes it might be viewed as just a live streaming platform, but there's so many other use cases for StreamYard. Like you said, you can use it as a meeting platform. You can use it as a recording platform. And it's so cool that you use it for pretty much everything. That's amazing.
Yeah. We're getting a lot of baseballs in the chat. I like it.
Good. Very good. Very good.
So tell us more about what your live stream or live stream shows are about. Do you have more than one?
Yeah. So they're all under the umbrella of what we call Fish Stripes Live.
Nice.
Just that live to end of it, making very clear what the intentions are. During the baseball season itself, the way that we segment it is that there's a different series every few days, a different opponent that the Marlins play. And we choose that as a great time leading into the game, like as an extended pregame show. We talk about whatever is going on with the team at the time. We look forward to their next opponent. We make predictions. That's become very popular. Is at the very end of the show, we make official predictions. So that show I'm not really hosting it. I'm producing it. I take a lot of pride in producing it and just appearing on the show as an obnoxious panelist. I speak up when I have something silly to say, but it's somebody else on my staff usually that handles the actual hosting, the organizing, the structure of it, and also brings in some guests as well. So typically, at a minimum, we have 4 people on a stream at the same time, but we have sometimes pushed that upper limit to 9 or 10 in order to have a lot of different conversations about what's going on with the team, to hear from people that are making content of their own that we want to highlight. We want to share what they're doing, as well as just bring in some celebrities, you might call it that. Not people that I guess you would recognize, but people that within our audience hold in high regard, whether they're former players, whether they're broadcasters, other people that you usually think might be too big for what we're doing online in our little corner of the internet. But as we've been able to do this and do it consistently, obviously the key is to keep this going consistently, right? So we've been doing this. If they can count on us about twice a week during the regular season, about once a week during the off season, it builds this core audience that expects things. And that has just motivated us to keep making it better in little ways.
That's awesome.
Is huge.
Right. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think what a lot of people struggle with, especially when they're first starting out, is the consistency. It's like, how do I continue to bring my audience such good content week after week? But I love that you're basing it on, something new happens every single week. Like there's a game, we get to talk about that. There's a next game. We're making our bets on the future games. But I'm curious, what happens in the off season when there's nothing to talk about, presumably?
Well, in ordinary off seasons, you could usually pull something one way or another. But this past off season, for people that don't follow it that closely, Major League Baseball had a lockout for over 3 months of the off season. They were not allowed to make transactions. It shut down all the flow of rumors that you usually get as well. And so I was concerned when that set in, exactly how long it would last, exactly how we would adjust things, and what we came up with. So the lockout started on December 2nd, and the following week, what came to my mind is doing a spinoff of Jeopardy, obviously the iconic game show, but to make the questions that are only focused on the team that we cover, only focused on baseball, and only focused on the Marlins, the type of things that you obviously wouldn't see on a full Jeopardy show. But I felt that our audience, as a balance of the history of the team and the current players on the team, that would be something that people would like to do, like to participate in, like to watch and participate in as well. We got into a rhythm where every single week I would come up with these questions. We found an app related to Jeopardy, a free app that allowed us to share the screen, where most of the screen is just the Jeopardy board. And we did as close as we can to imitate the actual game show.
Cool.
Where you see the questions, people buzz in using the private chat. We use the private chat as our buzzer system. Whoever buzzed in first got to go first.
Nice.
We had daily doubles where hidden within each board, somebody would get featured one-on-one to try to answer a question. We did multiple rounds. We came up with a final Jeopardy question. And again, the screen sharing is what was pretty critical to this. And what was also critical is just having a lot of people, just having all of my contributors that were willing to be participants and allowing me to produce the show, allowing me to click on all the questions as well, but having them as kind of characters on the recurring show. We had a couple of them. I wonder if he's listening. My youngest guy, Kevin, who's still just a teenager, he would lose every single week.
Oh, no.
But he became a popular character because every time he got something right, people would root for him, knowing that he was the youngest and he was at a disadvantage.
Oh my gosh.
So we just had this routine that endeared us to people. Again, we use the commenting on but on YouTube and Facebook is where we streamed it, as well as on Twitter. And so
Mhm.
people, even if they weren't actual formal contestants, they could type in and we would feature their answers if they got it right. We just pulled it onto the screen.
Yeah.
It got popular enough, and we did it every week for about 3 months, that people wanted to be on the show. We had people apply to be on the show and like fill out a form and
Nice.
that they wanted to come on. And the rules were pretty simple, that if you wanted to come back week after week, you had to win. And we did have, over the course of the show, we had just a couple people that continued to win pretty consistently. And again, that just formed these really interesting storylines, even at a time when there really was nothing else to talk about. So I'm grateful that StreamYard helped us get through that, because in comparison, in future off seasons, there's going to be a little bit more going on than compared to when the league is literally locked out. That was a tough situation. And thankfully we were able to, on the fly, kind of fine tune this show and make it something that people really were interested in and shared amongst each other and can go back and still watch now. That stuff is, all those full length episodes are still available on our YouTube channel for people interested.
I'm so delighted to hear that. It sounds like both the consistency of going live often, but then also the consistency of the cast of people on screen. It sounds like that really contributed to building that relationship with your audience, because like with Kevin, like the audience members were rooting for him and would come back to like see him try again. And I think that that's so, I don't know, it just makes me smile, because it sounds like you were growing such a community during a time where you thought like, oh no, there's a lockout. Like, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to do? But it sounds like you connected even more to your audience during that time.
Right. And I mean, we saw it, thankfully, in the number of people subscribing to our channel and the way that the jokes would carry on offline. And believe it or not, you're not going to believe this, but there were a few major league players that after the lockout ended and the new season started, they would mention that they watched our show during the off season when they had nothing better to do.
No way.
Yeah. And there was one who I remember actually got involved in the live chat during one of the episodes because we made some questions about him. We made questions about a lot of the active players on the team. And so another part is that we promoted this ahead of time. We would schedule it. People would know, several days in advance, really a whole week in advance, exactly when the next show would be. I think that helped with it as well, being able to pre-schedule it. And just doing some things on our website, fishstripes.com, and to do on social media to make people aware of what the categories would be in advance as well. So we would get people actually studying for the questions, even though I don't think that did them much good. But that was a wrinkle that we threw in about midway through, is putting the categories out ahead of time and really getting people's minds racing before the actual show went live.
I love that. And so the promotion ways that you promoted the show ahead of time was on your website. You would like make an announcement post about the live stream. And then you said you would post it just on social media. Like, hey, we're scheduled to go live at this time, this date. It's about this. And that's the only promo you did?
Yeah, it was pretty heavily on social media, especially on Instagram and a little Facebook and a lot on Twitter. That's probably where our biggest audience is. So when that's what we did, and pretty pleased with the results. So much so that even though there's actual games going on right now, there's still the demand for us to bring it back, the game show, like in some occasional times, especially during off days like today. We didn't do one today. I think the next one we'll do is probably May 23rd. So the next off day coming up on a Monday. It's interesting. It was a decent amount of work just to come up with all the questions because we wanted to make it different every single time. We didn't want people to be able to watch the show 1 week or even 1 month ago and actually know
and have
what
the answers.
The questions would be.
Right.
So that was the biggest challenge, because we created about 40 questions per episode. And
holy cow.
And that adds up if you're doing it once a week.
Sure does.
Yeah. So things worked out well in that now if we put a little bit more time in between the show and do our regular live streams for the most part, that take a little bit less preparation to go into it, that means that we're refreshed every time that we come back with a Jeopardy episode. It gives me more time to come up with unique questions.
Absolutely.
Well, that's so cool. So I love that this is a specific way, like the game show was how you're engaging your audience. You know, you're like keeping them engaged when you don't have that much game content to talk through. But I'm curious, like, what are the other ways that StreamYard's allowed you to build the audience and like grow a different audience?
Well, it has definitely helped me. We want to talk about behind the scenes. Aside from live streams, it has become now kind of our primary tool for recording podcasts. That was something that we started doing regularly back in 2019. We've used Zoom before, we've used other applications before, but I found that, especially with what you can do in terms of screen sharing on StreamYard, I found that made it really easy to get the most engaging conversations together. And most importantly, to be able to do that and also be able to preserve the audio quality. Like if we were going to record it, we want it to be as close to normal audio only podcast quality as possible. We also wanted to make it accessible for, I'll politely say, some older people. We wanted this to be something that people of all ages were comfortable using. So earlier today, actually, I was recording a podcast about a game that happened 25 years ago with a person that, let's just say, is a senior citizen. And they were able to seamlessly log into StreamYard. They figure out exactly how to use it. And we were able to record it in the exact kind of quality that we wanted to be able to also, when you finish a recording, to be able to download the files so quickly. A lot of other services take a little longer to process this. So I was in a hurry. Again, this was something this morning, and I wanted to get the episode out by noon. And through StreamYard, I was able to download the whole 30-minute conversation in a few seconds and plug it in and make the edits that I needed to make. So with that, and again, I wonder if they're listening. I know Isaac is listening. I have two guys, Isaac and Kevin, that they co-host their own show on our podcast platform, because our podcast has several different shows, but they co-hosted themselves. And so I have them set up as members, which is one of the new features that you guys added earlier this year, where they can do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff themselves. And so I'm there producing their podcasts when they're actually recording it, but it allows them to do a lot of the preparation themselves to invite their own guests onto the show with us based on that access. That has made things a lot easier. And again, it's been the combination of convenience and also the quality to be able to use some of those episodes both as audio only, but of course, sometimes just to simply take the video from StreamYard and push it up to YouTube in a non-live setting. That's been really awesome. And we've seen the benefits from it, where we've been able to use that and reach a different audience and have different conversations. I guess another thing to point out is how I told you about these live streams that we do, but sometimes there are certain segments in the live streams that I feel are especially valuable and that are easier for people to digest after the fact.
Yes.
And being able to pretty simply download the whole file and edit a few minutes out of it and be able to use that on social media or to upload it as a separate piece of content for YouTube, that's been really valuable too.
Wow.
Amazing.
You pretty much do everything. It sounds like you use every single feature. You went through screen sharing earlier, you went through team members just now. You're knocking it off. You're knocking each feature, you're checking it off on the checklist. But I really like how you said this morning, you did a podcast this morning and you pushed it out by noon. So did you do any editing to that show?
Yeah, a little bit of it, where we were having a conversation about some memorable plays, particular games that happened in 1997. And when my guests referenced a certain moment, I wanted to, in the final podcast version, be able to actually share the broadcast call from that moment. And that's something that I was able to plug in pretty easily. Just make a quick edit exactly where he said something and upload the extra 15 seconds of audio of the live broadcast call to really take the viewers back to that particular moment. And honestly, if I had the luxury of a little bit more advanced notice, that's something that I could have integrated during our conversation by just uploading the elements into StreamYard and pressing play on that. That's something that we do a lot on our live streams as well. It's just inserting certain clips in the middle of our conversation, either for a laugh or either to give certain context to whatever was being said by the actual people on the stream.
Oh, cool. I love that. Yes, and you have so many fans here in our audience. We have Fish on the Farm, Ely's work helping young, aspiring journalists prevail.
That's my guy. That's one of our frequent collaborators. So thank you for tuning in, Alex.
I love that. Yes, thank you all of your fans for tuning in.
Eli,
And
I want to know more about your team members. So you mentioned how you upgraded to the team so you could have more seats and collaborators on your account. And you also mentioned that when you do broadcast, you have multiple people doing multiple things within the backstage area. So tell us who is doing what during the production and like what role does everyone on your team play?
Hey, so I want to start off with the downside of having too many team members, which is one time we had a stream. This was just last week where we had our usual live stream in the middle previewing a series. And one of my team members, as we're playing the intro, we have an intro video that goes into every live stream right before we actually appear on the screen and start talking. And he pressed the button to end the stream right as the intro video was ending.
Oh,
so
no.
it was supposed to be a full hour live stream and it ends in 30 seconds.
Oh, no.
And it creates a video on our channel that's just a 30-second intro looping back and forth and nothing else because he pressed the wrong button at that time. Which means, so usually I handle the starting and the stopping of the live stream. I think that's very important, is to have just one person involved in that process.
Yeah.
They are pretty heavily involved with dealing with the commenters, with pulling up relevant comments that we feel need to be discussed. Even though we have a certain structure to the show that we put out ahead of time, you never know when one of our listeners is going to bring up a very important point that should be featured on the show. So they comb through the comments. Another recent thing that StreamYard added was being able to star the comments for later and like put them in that separate tab so that we can separate them from the rest. That has been important to be able to distinguish between those that we want to circle back to versus the rest of the chat. So they're mostly involved in that. Again, I'm a little unconventional in that even though I'm the one that heads the account, I leave a lot of the hosting responsibility and the discussion responsibility to them, while I myself play around with the various elements that we have, the multimedia elements, the screen sharing. And one thing I should mention is that StreamYard has helped us monetize our content a little better as well. So we have a particular sponsor called Loop, and I hope they're watching, but they sponsor a lot of the show that we do. And so they produce their own TV ad that I can actually insert into the show in the middle of our discussion to bring them some value and to continue to add structure to our show as well. So all these elements I've been able to upload along in our library of elements on the side, and using those, we play around with overlays on the screen as well.
Nice.
That are when they come in handy for certain reasons. And we're obviously pretty big on also using the different titles on the screen when we're changing subjects, making it clear when we're shifting topics. Even though in this particular stream, like our faces have been on the screen the whole time. This is nothing like the live streams that I do. Like, even though I'm a decent looking person, I know that the people listening are more interested in the baseball stuff and want to see the multimedia elements shared. So a lot of the time, my style is to put the content first, put the baseball first, and we're just the voices that are, we pretend to be experts. So we're part of the discussion, but we never want to, we understand what the people are really coming here for. And that's coverage of their favorite team.
Well, and knowing your audience is so important, like knowing what kind of content they're looking for, I think is really important, just being in tune in that way.
Yeah.
So Eli, of all of the features, because I think that you have mentioned every single one, which is iconic. So of all the features that you use of StreamYard, what is your favorite one?
Well, it would have to be screen sharing and how valuable that has been. I don't know if that counts.
Really?
I guess there's a whole lot of them, but that has definitely been important for producing the kind of show that I want to do. And that has been a critical difference in using this for non-live podcast recording as well, because I feel that's one advantage that it has over some of these other video conferencing devices. I feel it's easier with StreamYard than it is with some of those other devices. Nice. When I'm in a conversation with somebody for a podcast, being able to reference something, either a video clip or a certain image or something in between, like a GIF. I'm a big advocate of, I have a obsession kind of with making GIFs of certain moments and putting them on the screen to bring laughs to people or just to isolate a certain moment. And that's something we get a whole lot of use out of that. So yeah, that I don't know. That's the one that sticks out, but I would say that I use a lot of different things. There's a reason why we use it as much as we do because we find a lot of different clever ways to get value out of this and to make our lives more convenient.
And for screen sharing, is it mostly like a Chrome tab or like a window, or does it depend?
I use it for Chrome tabs, for tabs in Google Chrome. Yeah,
I love that. You bring in the audio too.
Right. Mm-hmm. It brings in the audio. There's also a little difference where the top of my browser is like hidden from that.
Yeah,
it's the sexiest look that I can get during the stream. Is
totally.
The tab. So
it shows the content.
Yeah, we've had a lot of trial and error with that. So I should point that out. So at this point, I've been using StreamYard for about 14 months. Mm-hmm. And if you look back at things I did during the first couple months in mid 2021, it would be sort of unrecognizable. We've learned a lot. We've had a lot of trial and error to get to this point. So once you get enough practice in, at this point, I'd say we've done about 80 live streams, 80, 85, and as well as a few dozen, non-live recordings as well. Once you get practice, it gets easier, it gets better. And that's what the feedback has been telling us, is that we've steadily been getting better at what we do. There's always room to improve, but I feel like we've reached a level where we are able to put together good content, but also very, professionally level content as well that we could be really proud of.
Wow, that's so neat. And Rob says, it's time to get a StreamYard tattoo like him. Rob actually got our StreamYard logo tattooed because he was that much of a super fan, and it sounds like you are too.
This might be the next step.
I think it is.
And Daniel says there's a new live stream tomorrow.
Oh,
rumor has it.
That's another one of my contributors. That's Daniel Rodriguez. You'll see him on a lot of our streams as well.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know. Well, Eli, we have reached the end of our episode, but I would like to follow your show, and I'm sure most of our audience would too. So where can they find your next show, your channel, your site?
You can simply put in the words Fish Stripes anywhere, and you will find Fish Stripes. Our website is fishstripes.com, but we're across pretty much any social media platform you can think of, from YouTube to Twitter to Instagram to TikTok to Facebook.
Nice.
That's where we cover the Miami Marlins. You see their logo is right over my left shoulder right there. So people interested in that, interested in baseball, would like our content, and it's all organized on the main website, fishstripes.com.
Amazing.
Fishstripes.com. So easy. And I love that you just Google it or look at any platform. It's easy.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Eli. This has been so fun. It's been so fun to get to know all the features and all the different ways you use StreamYard. Normally, people have one show that they get to feature on our show, but we get to talk about all your shows and all the different ways you get to use StreamYard. So thank you so much for being our guest.
This has been awesome. Kelsey, Dana, thank you a lot. And to everybody at StreamYard that has been very supportive in helping us get better and better at this. I'm very pleased with what we've been able to do with it.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear you say that. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
Bye, Eli.
Have a great night.
Bye.
You too. Oh, screen share. Who would have thought?
Who knew?
I don't think we've had anyone say screen share yet.
No.
Have you?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Normally I hear the guests, which he talked about. Like, I love that it's so easy to bring on guests of all ages.
Yeah.
He touched on every feature. I can't even think of them all.
Screen share is underrated, though. You know what I mean? Like, we take it for granted, but it's such a good feature. So that's why I love that he brought it in.
That is fair. Dimebag says StreamYard is the best. Right. Thank you so much.
Darren.
Right back at you. Thanks, Darren. See you in the town hall next week, maybe. Aaron says, hi, Daniel. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to our show tonight. Check out Eli's content at fishstripes.com, and we will see you in the next episode.
Next month.
Mm-hmm.
See you then.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.